to Series 6, Restorative Discipline Practices Made Simple. Today's topic is restorative practices, making things right. What is that? That is family group conferencing, or conferencing to repair harm or conflict. Today's panelists are Jennifer McCready and Laura Richard. They will introduce themselves in just one moment. I'm Dr. Gaye Lang. I am the host. And I am the statewide director for restorative discipline practices in the state of Texas, the great state of Texas, at the Texas Education Agency. So get ready, fasten your seatbelts. We're going to give you really lots of good tips and strategies and information. Jennifer, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jennifer McCready. I am the counselor at Tomball Connections Academy and Tomball ISD. We serve students who are special needs adults, supported on the job training program. We have the DAEP, and I have a dropout prevention program.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a mouthful. Okay, Laura, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Laura Richard. I'm a licensed specialist in school psychology, and I'm the district therapist for Crosby ISD. I work for all ages and grade levels and campuses, and have been implementing restorative practices in our district this year.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate both of you being here. So let's talk about family group conferences, or repairing the harm or conflict. So just what is that? So that kind of conference allows two individuals, groups of people, to get in the same space to decide that they want to repair the harm and make things right. The making things right means we're going to come to a conclusion or a decision that we both can agree upon, that we both will be able to keep, and we both will honor. That is what the family group conference or repairing the harm or conflict conferences do. That being said, one of the things that happens in those conferences is critical and key to making things right. Everybody has to be okay with it. I can't be the only one that's okay with it. But there's a lot of structure to those conferences, a lot of direct engagement so that every voice is heard and everybody has an opportunity to get what they need out of the conference. Jennifer, can you tell us some of the things that, in your opinion, that makes family group conferencing different than community building circles, which everyone can do?
Well, of course, the family group conference builds on the skills that students learn in community building circles, but they have more specific questions. Key to that would be questions about what happened, who's been affected by the incident, and of course, how are we all going to work together to make things right? So there's very specific questions. There's also an opportunity for you to work with families ahead of time, or students ahead of time, or whoever's involved in the incident ahead of time, so that they understand the questions. It's key that all parties are willing to come together and accept responsibility for their part and to work things out. That's the big difference.
Yeah, they want to work things out and they're willing to do it. You can't force it. Laura, would you like to add anything to that from your perspective?
Yeah, so one thing I really have taken a look at, and it's really kind of been in something I've noticed in doing family group conferences with students, is when you go through the questions about what happened and you get to the one that says who was harmed, our students are not able to really give good answers. There's a book about, and talk about the selfie generation. And I think it's really coming out in these conferences that they don't get other people have been affected by what you do. And it's kind of eye-opening, I think, on the students' part. Not only talking about, okay, what do we do to make things right, but hey, this was a thing. It wasn't just to yourself, or it wasn't just to this one person. but other people were impacted and potentially harmed by your action. And it's just been a big eye opener for students.
Well, their actions do have consequences and they do impact other people. And I think when they do the family group conference, when you ask key questions where they have to be more reflective on their behavior, it tends to at least open their eyes to the fact that there's something else going on here. And I think that that in and of itself helps people to understand that there's a way to bridge this, mend this, or make things right, which is why they call family group conferencing making things right. So both of you have used this skill or this conference before. Can you give me an example, Laura, of when you've used it or any part of it or anything that has happened since you've been training?
Sure. So recently, I trained all of our administrators and counselors in our coordinator training, tier 2, tier 3. And immediately after training, I started getting requests for, hey, can we do a conference with these students? And some of them are more conflict resolution oriented. But it was really something that the administrators keyed into. Like it was a need. It was like, yes, this is like a missing piece. We've needed to do this. Like, I think I work with some wonderful, wonderful administrators and counselors who are already restorative in nature. And so they were sort of doing their own version of this, but having that structure has really helped give us a direction. So it's been already impactful.
Oh, wow, that's really good. Happy for you. Very good. Jennifer, what about you? Do you have an example?
Yes, with conflict between students at the DAP, it's very structured, but sometimes we have, the mean mugging or the side eye or misunderstood looks, and bringing students together to work through that is always helpful and productive. And it can be done without anything punitive going into place, which is so wonderful. I've used it when students have had substances on campus to repair harm with the school campus and their parent. I had a student last year who wanted to do a conference himself with a teacher that there was a conflict with. And I just kind of stood back and let that happen. He wanted to make sure that everything was right between him and that teacher moving forward, which I thought was so wonderful. Not only taking responsibility and the teacher being able to take responsibility for her part in the scenario, but for them to say, you know what, we're working together moving forward.
Wow, that is powerful right there. That is so powerful, man. If we get that to happen every day, it would just be a dream, really. It really would. I know you mentioned harm can also happen when people harm themselves. I think we spoke about that once before. Jennifer, would you like to share a little bit about that?
Yes, I think sometimes students don't know how to cope with life in a healthy way, and so they choose ways that are harmful. Sometimes it's acting out and hoping to have negative consequences, and sometimes it is using substances or self-injury. But you can employ the family group conference within any of those scenarios as well.
Yeah, that's good. So one of the other things people, I guess, expect are the results. So what does the data say about doing family group conferences? Can you prove that it works? Did you have a reduction in discipline? Are there students still fighting? Did they go back and fight another time? So what has been your experience once you've had a family group conference, once the students have gotten together? Any results or any things that you could share from self-report or anecdotal records? Laura, what about you?
Yes. So, like I said, after training, we really started implementing more of these conferences. And the ones I have worked with, I have not pulled the data, so it's anecdotal, but the students, even students who didn't want a conference together, maybe we had a separate conference, which I really love this tool because it can be versatile. I have never had to speak with them about it again. And in fact, many times, the students in conflict become friends, or they become friends again. So the the results have been really good. We've had no more issues, no more conferencing with the same kids or about the same issue with the same students again. So it's been a really powerful tool to go along with our tier one, just community building circles, which is already a powerful tool.
Yes.
And results are coming in that look fantastic for the schools that are implementing.
Really, and I'm glad you brought up that it's versatile, because there are times when you can't bring two families together. So you could have a family group conference separately and then let the families know and report back to them the making things right part. And let everybody know, and then you still resolve it. So I think that that's key. Jennifer, what about you? Have you had any experience or any results from your work?
Yes, I feel like students feel like they have a voice. I feel when families are involved that they feel they have a voice. And I think the whole relationship between school and family, student and teacher, it's restored because everyone feels like we're working together to move forward. It's not punitive. It's not someone out to get someone. It is truly, as restorative practices says, restorative.
Yeah, I think that that is so big of a deal to me, because if you could bring people back together in a good way, even if they don't love each other, they don't want to fight either. They don't want to harm each other again. Even if they stay away from each other, we just want the peace. We want no harm done to anyone. Like the commercials say, do no harm. I love that. So when I think about that, that's what I always say, do no harm. So if we could just keep that piece in there, it's great. Beside the data piece, if we could leave the listeners and viewers with one thing that's a good takeaway, something that will tell them, if you had to do this, my one takeaway for this tool, my one takeaway for using family group conferences and repairing the harm, what's your one thing you would ask them, tell them, share with them to take away? Jennifer.
I would say it's the ritual. It is having those questions. Often the students are already familiar with those questions ahead of time for various reasons. It's coming together beforehand to make sure that both parties or all the parties are on board to work together. And it's of course celebrating at the end the agreement that's been made so that we can all move forward.
And I think that's the thing. If they could just bring closure to things, I think it's important, because bringing closure, even if you're not best friends again, we have closed this out. So we don't bring this nastiness back to the school and let everybody get involved with it all over again, add your friends to it. We're going to close it out so that doesn't happen. And I think that that's the missing piece when we bring the kids back. They bring the nastiness back with them, or that ugliness back, and then you start that all over again. You didn't close it. You patched the wound, you didn't heal it, you didn't make healing happen, or you didn't bring enough closure to it to stop the incident from occurring over and over again. Laura, what about you?
Well, I think that I would tell others, take the time to make it happen, because the results are far greater than just what happens in that meeting. My students who have had circle groups with me and then had maybe a group conference to resolve conflict, or not, even students who have not, have become my peacemakers on campus.
Really?
Students who, see their friends having an issue go on are being peacemakers amongst their peers.
Wow.
So we're teaching not only how to resolve this one issue and how to move forward, but we're teaching life skills. We're teaching how to be a good citizen, how to get along with others in the world. And I think it's just that powerful of a tool. So take the time to make it happen.
I love that. Take the time to make it happen. Self-regulation is huge. If you can get
Yes.
students to regulate their own behavior and work with their peers, you're doing something. If we could do that, like Jennifer said, her students work so well together, and you all doing all these wonderful things. When students can own all of this, our job is just about finished, because that is the goal, that they own their own responsibility. They're responsible for self. they can
Yes.
control themselves and everybody's in control of themselves and can support each other. That's the beauty of restorative practices right there. If I could say nothing else, the beauty of that is accountability for self. When you could
Mhm.
self-regulate, that is huge. And
Yeah.
discipline then kind of disappears. So tier 1 becomes easier. You never get to tier 2. You don't have those conflicts. And that's pretty good when you could arrive at that place. Any closing thoughts from either of you before we sign out? Last thought.
Well, I just have to share, my students and I have now, our code language is values. So
Oh,
whenever they see me or, they're leaving, they'll shout integrity or, respect. Yeah.
that's
So,
kind of neat. Start
I
your
love
own little
it.
group of conflict
I do.
resolution in the
I
middle
do.
of all this. We're still having values, so we don't have a lot of conflicts because, hey, we got our values to stand on. Wow,
That's right.
pretty
That's
good.
right.
I like that one. Good story. Jennifer, you got any?
Everyone loves the talking piece. Parents, students, they all appreciate the opportunity to have the floor, say what they need to say, and have everyone else just listen. And so that is really key for this family group conference, but it also starts to be built in those community building circles.
Wow.
For some of the quiet kids, that's their favorite part, is the talking piece and how it organizes participation and it gives everyone a voice.
Wow, I love it. I love it. I love it. I do. So for you all who have been viewing it, I hope you've enjoyed this panel. And until then, keep listening. We do have 2 worksheets that goes with this. Please download it while you're looking at this video, and maybe you can learn even more by practicing it. Thank you so much. Until then, keep listening.